It wasn't even 48 hours ago when everyone was wondering if Carlos Correa was ever going to get a hit or if the Twins were literally ever going to win a game. Now it's opening day at Target Field, and we can't shut up about how the Twins are going to run the table on the uber-competitive AL Central, where everyone is in first place, but also last. This much is true. You're not going to last until you get Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Locked On Twins, your daily go-to source for the top Minnesota Twins insight, discourse, and analysis. Personally, it's my favorite show of the Imperial Locked On Podcast Network, which, by the way, brings you your team every day. Don't forget, hit, like, and subscribe where applicable. I'm Dave Brown, an MLB writer, at least since the Twins couldn't win a game to save their lives. I'm also a BBWA member and a Hall of Fame voter. Across the Great Plains of cyberspace is Brandon Warren, who looks like he's opening a branch of the Hall of Fame in his basement. Brandon was a Twins fan who became a Twins writer, and now he's both. Ain't that some stuff? On the podcast today, one more, and you can call it a streak. The Twins closed out their series against the White Sox with a pair of victories that allowed them to move into first place in the AL Central. Do you think it's a little silly yet to look at statistics and standings and worry about it? Speaking of which, Carlos Correa increased his batting average 95 points on Wednesday. His first hit was an 89-mile-an-hour single through the right side of the infield. As a possible Hall of Famer goes about things, Correa was relieved, to say the least, as his Twins teammates called for the ball. If you're headed down to Target Field for the home opener Thursday, be sure to look for that ball on display in the lobby. I'm kidding. And how about how the Twins' best players led them out of the wilderness after an 0-4 start? Correa, Buxton, Lopez, they put the kibosh in Chicago's dreams of a series win. Hey, we are out of the wilderness, right? Brandon might be able to tell us he's more surrounded by it outside the Twin Cities.
Well, if I'm looking outside,
yeah,
sorry, if I'm looking outside, it's snowy, and so I don't know if we're out of the wilderness altogether, but 2-4 has never felt so good.
It hasn't, especially when everyone's in the world apparently is 2-4. Brandon, we try to keep it positive on this show, or at least somewhere on the realistic spectrum between desperate and cautiously optimistic. But it was tough when the Twins fell to 0-4. I was having delusions of Tingler, concerned that you'd have to rename your dog Tingler, the whole thing. Actually, might start calling Rocco Tingler instead, just for laughs. But now that the Twins are all the way up to 0-4 and first place in the AL Central, can you even remember 0-4?
Not really. I mean, it's so long ago. No, you know what's funny too about Tingler? I actually stumbled upon a fun little rabbit hole that a lot of baseball coaches and managers were Rule 5 draft picks. Joe Espada was a Twins Rule 5 draft pick in 1998. Bo Porter was a Rule 5 draft pick. There were others. I'm blanking on them now, but it was like 4 or 5 different. Jeff Pickler, who was a coach for the Twins and then ended up with the Reds for a bit there. I don't know what he's doing now, but that to me was interesting. I was thumbing through there. So I don't know why I found that so interesting, but
no, I find it interesting. I don't know if it's, we might have to do a little more research to find if it's statistically significant, but it is funny that you come up with these examples kind of off the top of your head semi.
Well, I was because the White Sox and Twins, I was doing my little thing for twins.tv, and when Shane Smith faced them, I was trying to find the last Rule 5 player who stuck for the Twins and who stuck for the White Sox, because the White Sox actually have 2, right? Like they have is it Vassell besides?
Yeah, Vassell. Matt? Is it Matt Vassell?
Well, so anyway, Mike Vassell. Yeah, Vassell is Rule 5 through another team, but still needs to fulfill the requirements.
At least one. He might be on his 4th team since his original organization last year. It's weird.
Yeah. So the last one to make it the full season for the White Sox was, I think, Dylan Covey, and the last then the last one for the Twins was J.R. Graham. Actually, I was expecting it to be Ryan Presley, but it was J.R. Graham. Ryan Presley, though, who was with the Astros until this offseason when he was traded to the Cubs, but not in the trade for Michael Tucker, not Michael Tucker, but Kyle Tucker. Oh man, I'm a mess. Rule 5 rabbit hole to dive into here on opening day.
Well, I miss Aberson Castellano, so moment of silence for his Twinsness. But Shane Smith looked pretty good. It was we kind of already talked about that, but that he looked like a guy that, although, like I said, I think the Twins gave a little bit of help to future scouting reports by waiting him out in that last inning and making him throw too many pitches.
Well,
we'll see how long he can sustain.
You can see why he went number 1 overall. One of the better Rule 5 players since the format changed. Like the days where a guy like Johan Santana could be available. Right. That got tweaked with one of the recent CBAs, so it's a little less predictable, a little more projection. But I thought Smith looked tremendous. But you know what? He's not in Minnesota right now, so we don't care.
This isn't Locked On Sox, so those guys. No, I don't know. I'm sure they're fine. So the Twins, I've noticed this about already. They've had a couple of watershed moments in the first 6 games. It's, we joke about, well, you can't remember 0-4. We sort of can remember the feeling more than anything else.
Yeah.
2 things have happened that I noticed. They both happened with in the White Sox series. One, after the 3rd inning in the first game, Rocco took out Buxton and Correa because the Twins were being non-competitive against the White Sox. And they had 6 innings, 18 outs to go, took them out of the game. The White Sox did not relinquish the lead. I don't think they would have had Buxton and Correa stayed in the game. And I still say that Buxton making a jumping attempt, a leaping attempt for Michael Tucker's home run and then falling to the ground.
Michael Taylor, not Michael Tucker. I threw you off.
Stop it. Stop with your Michael Tucker. On Michael Tucker Taylor's home run.
Michael, A. Taylor.
I'm collecting myself. Come on, Dave. Come on.
Hey, he never played in KC or anything. It's not like you saw him up close and personal.
I can still see him. I interviewed him. Hey, you're striking out less and walking more. That lasted for about 2 weeks.
That's a long interview.
So the Twins have this, I think, big moment where they bench the stars, the top of the lineup. They cut the head of the lineup off. And the rest of the players are probably like, well, this isn't good. And then the next couple of days after that, Carlos Correa gets his first hit. He goes in 0 for 18. Lots of panic on the loud Twitter voices about how he's not running out ground balls and earning his $35 million and all that stuff. But he goes and he gets a hit and he's relieved and he puts his hands to the sky, to the heavens. Thank you, Lord, for blessing me with a hit finally. And the Twins dugout responds with a pretty funny half pretend celebration where, they do the C4 sign language and Ryan Jefferson and some other people call for the ball as if it's Carlos Correa's first hit.
Like Mickey Gasper's
like a milestone.
Yeah.
What's that?
Like Mickey Gasper's first hit. And then
they
said
like it was Mickey Gasper's first hit.
Rocco Absolutely. Wouldn't let him have the ball until they won a game.
Yeah, so now that's true. I'd forgotten about that Mickey Gasper's ball has been held hostage by Rocco until the Twins won that game the other day.
Imagine if he'd have gotten Dobnak off the roster and not ever gotten the ball presented.
Oh, yeah.
Because they start like the Braves 0-7, and the first move they make is to get rid of Mickey Gasper. That would have been tragic. By the way, do you want to hear a fun list?
Sure.
So Carlos Correa was 0 for 17 before the game.
He was 0 for 18.
And then 0 for 18, he made an out in his first plate appearance. I think he hit the ball like 104 point whatever miles per hour. It was another 100 mile per hour batted ball. The list of position players in Twins history, so post 61, with longer 0 for streaks to start the season. Jim Holt in 1974, 0 for 18. Scott Alger in 1983, 0 for 19. You remember Scott Alger as
I do, yeah.
His numbers in the minor leagues were insane. Anyway, Miguel Sano in 2022, 0 for 19. You wonder, we should ask our friend Greg if they think he thinks they should sign Miguel Sano.
I wonder what this means for him.
3 years plus opt-outs. David Ortiz in 1999, 0 for 20.
Well, you're out of here, buddy.
Yep, you're out of here, buddy. And then Ron Jackson in 1980, 21 plate appearances. I do not know of Ron Jackson. So,
I had Ron Jackson baseball cards. He was the first base coach on the White Sox in 2005 when they won the World Series, known as Papa Jack.
Nice.
So I'm here for your Ron Jackson content.
That's the list of offers, and then it was Correa's. He was like 0 for 18 for like I think the longest offer in his career was 29. Is that right? I think he'd had a 29 straight plate appearance hitless streak in like 2021 with the Astros. So this wasn't the longest. It wasn't even as long as with the Twins, but it was among the longest. And I just thought, I don't know, I like lists too. Also, Audra saying Bader Tater after the game last night cracked me up.
Well, isn't it hot dish because it's Minnesota?
Well, she just said it was a Bader Tater, and he thought it was kind of funny. I was watching the post game because I was doing live support for it, and it just made me laugh. I don't know.
It is funny.
Yeah.
Along those lines of Carlos Correa, he wasn't the only guy coming into play the other day without a hit.
No, he was not. Yeah, a lot of struggling.
Rafael Devers was 0 for 19. Wilson Bill Contreras of the Cardinals 0 for 20. Dylan Cruz of the Nationals 0 for 16. Francisco Lindor had 1 hit, as did Yordan Alvarez, and Tristan Casas came into the same game with 1 hit. So Correa wasn't the only guy who was struggling to get on the board, and the overreactions were pretty funny.
A lot of good players on that list too,
including by the Twins dugout. But did you know, Brandon, that the Twins made the little ceremony about getting the ball back and all that? Did you know where Carlos Correa's first major league hit was? It was in Wright Field in Chicago in 2015, 10 years ago this June. He hit a little squibber to short against Chris Sale and beat it out for an infield single. That was Carlos Correa's first hit, which they didn't really verify until after the ump at first base blew the call. But they had replay still. Yeah. So they were able to get that ball. So that it's funny to me that there's some symmetry with Correa's first hit, and then they pretend it was his first hit against the White Sox, and they ask for the ball again.
Would that have been the Tim Anderson era, hitting the ball to him?
I just remember Sale on the mound. No, it was Alexei Ramirez.
It was Alexei Ramirez still. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, either way, I just wanted to see if I could remember correctly, because I like to do like those impossible grids or immaculate grids and stuff, and trying to remember who plays for who what year is fun to me. So.
And speaking of grids, we are going to take our first break right now. And then when we come back, we are going to unbreak.
Well, baseball season is in full swing, and your best way to get in on the action is with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, you pick more than or less than on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Whether it's strikeouts, RBI, RBIs, RBI, or first inning runs, Prize Picks keeps every game exciting. You can build a lineup with Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, whatever you want to do as far as more than or less than, with homers, strikeouts, stolen bases. I mean, with Ohtani, stolen bases and home runs, you can mix and match and do all kinds of stuff. And setting a lineup takes literally like 60 seconds. So not only does it not take long to set up, but you can cash out right away. You get your money immediately. It's quick, it's safe, it's secure. And for instance, I like Taco Tuesday not only in terms of IRL in real life, but Prize Picks offers discounts on select player projections, and you get even more value. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. And Supply House is back in your house. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades. Supply House, whether you're plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, if that's your business, Supply House is your reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast and everything in between. If you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person on the other end. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5. That's SamHorn5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com.
Locked On Twins, we are back, and the Twins have 2 wins on the board for so many days.
You can put them on the board. Yes.
Let's see. The second game, the second victory, was driven a little bit more by the team's stars, the big 3, as I don't know if that's as it is.
Big 3 less Royce Lewis plus Pablo Lopez, I guess. I think of Royce Lewis as the third, but that's.
Well, I think of Pablo Lopez, Carlos Correa, and Byron Buxton as the 3 best players in the roster. So
that's accurate. That's accurate.
Yeah. The first game was a little more supporting cast, although Harrison Bader did put an exclamation point on the second win with another long home run. But Pablo, after a rain delay, this was Pablo. This was the first time really we've seen him all year. Maybe his last spring start, which I didn't really watch, was better, but he had been kind of struggling putting it all together in spring training. Nobody cared. Nobody seemed to care. Maybe a few people cared. And his first start against the Cardinals wasn't very encouraging. This was good. Yeah. He was good. He was dominant. He took a nap before the game because of the long rain delay and was dominant. Byron Buxton also took a nap and hit into the teeth of a wind, hit a really long home run in the first inning.
Third longest in MLB this year already.
That's right. With the hurricane winds blowing in, saved a hit with a long 106-foot run, I believe, to catch one that almost blew back into the infield. So
that was hilarious.
Both sides of the ball. Carlos Correa is like, wow, where's that ball going? Both sides of the ball, amazing. Correa it wasn't as good of a diving play as he made in the second game in Chicago, but it was really neat over the shoulder. I don't know how they do that. I would lose my breakfast or lose my place. It was great. And the big 3 really coming through. It was a signature win in that way. It's another reason. And Rocco said afterward, it's not exactly how he put it, but if those guys are going good, we're going to win a lot of games. That's how I interpreted what he said. So I don't think anybody can dispute this. When those players are playing their best, the Twins are at their best.
Well, I think Pablo's spring training struggles and then into the season were overshadowed by the fact that, if people want to talk about taking your spring into the season, everything about that, Carlos Correa exemplifies more than Pablo. And so that's where Carlos was kind of at the fans who are, well, if spring training doesn't matter, why is this happening? You know what I want to do, though, is I thought Sean Burke looked tough. He looked like he could be pretty decent, too. It's at least the White Sox are starting some guys with interesting repertoires, or, they're not going back to the well with Chris Flexen, who, Chris Flexen can have a role maybe as a swingman flexing on him for another team, but he's not an interesting starting pitcher. It's just to be frank, to be candid, they could launch Mike Clevenger into the moon and I wouldn't shed a single tear, but otherwise I like to see that they're at least focusing on Cam Boozer, former Twins farmhand, throws the crap out of the ball. I think that they're at least trying something. My long-held theory is if you can't be good, you should at least be interesting. Now, I don't think their offense is interesting at all. Miguel Vargas might be okay-ish. Brooks Baldwin, who knows? And I kind of like that Amaya at shortstop, especially defensively. But this is not a team that's going to go anywhere with this offense. I mean, Travis Jankowski starting in center field, it's just not that exciting. Matt Tice behind the plate. However, their pitching staff at least is interesting to me. And I don't want to gloss over that because, we'll see them. Let's see, we see them in Minnesota in about 3 weeks. And then we don't see them again until August. So after the trade deadline, it's going to be interesting to see how much they change in the 4 months between the 2 series coming up here.
Yeah, I don't know how many guys they have to trade. I mean, Benintendi's obviously one, but he's I wouldn't say making big money because the White Sox have never paid anybody $100 million, but he's got a $75 million contract. I'm not sure how many years
they'd
left
have to
on
eat
it.
half of it. Yeah, they'd have to eat half of it.
Yes, they would.
Move him.
And
He's hitting
Jerry
now.
loves to do that.
He's hitting now.
He is. He was hitting since this. I mean, it took him long enough, but he was hitting in the second half last year too. So he wasn't hitting. He wasn't going great guns, but he was doing fine.
But if you traded for him now, you would get roughly 3 years, and because we're just starting the third year of his contract of 5. But if you traded for him and got him, Jerry to cover half the freight, you're talking about 3 years at what, like $8 million per. If you think his turnaround is even semi-legit, that could be a sneaky good value for somebody. Just nobody's going to want to commit 3 years to a guy they didn't sign in the first place. But if he's hitting, 285 or heaven forbid 300 at the deadline or at the break, somebody might take that plunge if the White Sox will still eat half of it and get back an interesting pitching prospect, which seems to be their MO right now.
Yeah, another pitching prospect. That's great. Well, they do have some guys at the minor leagues, AA especially, who are, they're two lefties.
Also have 6 guys who've had Tommy John in the last month or whatever it is. So
that was odd.
The war of attrition begins and ends in Chicago, I guess.
So they don't have. You're right. A big offseason acquisition in the outfield was Mike Tuck. So let's bring in some more fourth outfielders. So, but you're right. White Sox pitching makes them a little more formidable and interesting to watch than they were. I mean, obvious. I like the look of and Will as the manager so far. I think he's got them doing the right things. So I think it's pretty unlikely the Twins are going to win 12 out of 13 against the White Sox this year. Maybe
it's like my fourth outfielder is your first outfielder. Like they say, someone's trash is someone else's treasure. And I don't mean to call humans trash. Just that's kind of where the White Sox are at as far as
my baloney has a trash name.
I mean, Deshaun Kiersey Jr. would play every day in center field.
Oh my God. I wish, 12-year-old Dave wishes that Deshaun Kiersey was on the White Sox. Good gravy.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that'll happen.
Yeah, he's like the new Jake Cave. Jake Cave could have started for a few teams when he was in his early part of the Twins, and now he's overseas. So good for him.
Nice intra-league trade opportunity, Zoll.
Yeah,
but on that note, we are going to Zoll into our next break.
Zoll out. Zoll out. If you're looking for a snack, maybe on opening day that's both delicious and nutritious, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts you'll find out there. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you 10% of your expected daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you feel full longer. Personally, I like the ones in the shells. Slow me down a little bit, make me really think about how much I'm eating, trying to be better. Although if you overeat a snack, you can do a lot worse than pistachios. Perfect grab and go, whether you're on the road or even just sitting at your desk doing a little mindless snacking, which I know I'm guilty of for sure. But regardless, if you have the in-shell or non-shell options, they're both delicious. They both taste absolutely incredible. So you can get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
Locked On Twins, we are back for our final segment. I want to talk a little bit more about just some housekeeping issues as far as the last game goes and some things that impressed me or I think that maybe we should take note of before we go into Twins opening day at Target Field. Ty France getting rewarded. He had a couple of hits. Again, he had a nice at bat against Penn Murphy in the big victory game and has followed it up with a couple more. I'm everybody knock on wood. Edouard Julien is hitting the ball pretty hard. Mm-hmm. He had some nice placement and some loud hits and or outs the night before. Went 1 for 4 with a strikeout yesterday. I'm encouraged. I was worried that maybe he was lost. Like then they weren't going to get him back because slumps sometimes can just overwhelm a player mentally. So I've been impressed with how he has gone so far. Kind of like how Wallner, after a stint in the minor leagues last year, got through his slump to start the season. So I'm impressed with some guys in the team showing their mental toughness so far, and that's that can only help, especially with the injuries that the Twins have had, if people like Julian are contributing. So I think that's good.
I think if he's flipping the ball over third base like he has been, he's on the right track. And I mean, anytime a guy's staying on the ball long enough to go the other way, it means he's not giving up on it, which I think was the biggest issue with all the called third strikes last year. When I don't know if it was that he wasn't reading the pitches or he didn't trust his hands to execute, pull the trigger on swings. I don't know what it was. The psychology of hitting is fascinating, but it's also just so much more than I could ever understand. And so to see him, and again, he started last year strong, so we don't want to say, oh, he's back. He's back, baby. But it's encouraging. It's definitely encouraging. And also, too, a lot to be gained here when you're waiting on Brooks Lee to come back and Royce Lewis, because of the guys who have options, when you start looking at who they may or may not send back, maybe Julian is safe for both those guys if they send back Kersey and Gasper. But Gasper's got a little more versatility, and he can hit from the right side, which might be the decider if they're both playing similarly when those guys come back. Now, again, baseball has a funny way of figuring that out for you. Someone rolls an ankle and goes on the IL, and suddenly you have just as many guys as you need, or fewer guys than you need. So trying not to get ahead of myself there. But Julian coming out and stinging the ball, hopefully the results will follow soon. But a couple of those dump shots over third, he looks like a different player than we saw him towards the end of last year.
For sure. Maybe not like the guy who was rolling hot in his rookie season,
right,
but something better than that. Something better than what, like you said, what we saw last year. So that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of along those lines, Emmanuel Rodriguez is back in the lineup at AAA. St. Paul's off to a great start. I think you could almost bring them up to the major leagues and they'd compete at this point.
Mm-hmm. Especially in the AL Central.
Really. But
Jeff Passan just tweeted about it. So.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he's like the AL Central, everyone. He's being kind of rude about it.
Oh, I thought you meant he tweeted about St. Paul. I'm like, wow, they are making news.
No. He said the AL Central, everyone, and posted the standings. And you know what, though? Little history lesson for everybody listening. Go check out the American League West in 1994. Worst division ever.
You did have to go back a few years, though, for that example.
I was 8 years old. I was alive. I was watching baseball, and I don't care.
Speaking of 8 years old, everybody feels like an 8-year-old when it's opening day.
Yes.
And it's opening day, and you're part of the neck of the woods there up there at Target Field. And the Astros are in town, which means Altuve is in town.
They're also 2-4.
Altuve and 4. So we got Altuve and Correa and the Astros. And that makes me think of something that is unpleasant to think about in the context of Carlos Correa. Do you know what I'm
You want me to grab a trash can and bang it or what?
Yes, I need to make my point a little less
I
subtle.
should probably not say bang it like that, but I know what you mean. Yeah. And Altuve has crushed the Twins. Yordan Alvarez has crushed the Twins. I think Altuve's got like a 903 OPS against the Twins. Alvarez is like 946, something like that. So, I mean, it's not the Astros of yore, but it's still a team that the Twins have to respect.
As Rocco said, I've learned in this game, and he sounded like an old man when he was doing it. He sounded like Patrick Royce. I've learned in this game to respect everybody because you never know. As Joaquin Andahar said, baseball can be summed up in one word. You never know who is going to beat you. And there's no reason for the Twins to be overlooking anybody. I don't think they are. But no. I also don't think the Astros are going to end up being all that good. So, but they do have, like you said, some big names, some players who can crush you.
They're an 85 win team, I think. Like 85 and 77, 84, 78. Like, fine, but they don't play in the AL Central. But the AL West is probably going to be kind of a mess, too. If Seattle doesn't hit, then I don't know who wins that division.
Hey, you know who would have loved to be 85 and 77 last year? The Twins.
Yeah. I mean, those 3 extra wins would have been very helpful. Yeah.
Yes. Speaking of very helpful, I'm going to tell you something right now. We want to thank you. We want to thank you for making Locked On Twins your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast with hosts Dominic Martino and Matthew Ane. The fantasy season, did you know, is in full swing? Get it? Because baseball players swing. So be the most informed fan and set yourself up for a league win. And then you go find Locked On Twins and Locked On Fantasy Baseball on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hopefully, it's where you listen to this one. Then it's a nonstop or one-stop shop and nonstop. Just keep listening to podcasts until you go insane. That's what I would do.
One-stop shop, and you can listen to our nonstop slop. And that's
why they pay him the bucks.
Byron Buxton,
not the Milwaukee Bucks. But so happy opening day to all of you Twins people. I'm Dave Brown. He's Brandon Warren, wishing you all a very pleasant good evening, saying that we will Alexei Casilla tomorrow night, maybe.
Yeah, tomorrow later.
Maybe tomorrow morning.
Okay. All right.